very well, and then it comes and turns to green. It's like a tradition unlike any other.
Yeah, tradition unlike any other. Yeah, waiting for a live stream to start. No joy unlike it. Are we starting? Or are we live?
Oh God, no. We may have a. I'm looking. It says we're not receiving data, which means we're probably live somewhere else. Which is the whole YouTube, OBS, everything's just been mucked up recently. We've been having sound issues. We're having all sorts of just pain and suffering.
It's not easy being a producer and a host.
No. All right. Well, we're live on a random channel, so let's.
We're not live on our video itself. But we are live on a video, or we are live on Periscope.
We are live on the Osmo YouTube, but not under what was set up for us to go live for.
Oh, all right. So let me keep this open then. I'll pull up. If you want to fill the air, I'll put the link into the chat.
Sure. So welcome everybody to the Osmo Live Before Lock show. Who knows? It's a grab bag of whatever's going to crap out each time, which is literally hilarious because this is my fourth show that I've done in the last 18 hours, and something different has gone wrong each time, and I have changed none of my settings. So I don't
understand. The joys of live non-TV.
Oh yeah, between the podcast, the morning shows, the show tonight, it's a comedy of errors, and I got another one tomorrow morning with one Jay Kari, because I voted and said, let's have Spags do Saturday night so Josh can have a day off. Let's not make Spags do Sunday morning, which is really Sunday morning out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, no, there is a less than zero chance that would have occurred.
Yes. So rather than me have a solo show, I wanted to just get that all squared away. So it'll be me and our boy Josh. So that should be a good time. I'm gonna get our tweet fixed here. Fortunately, we just have 6 games, and it's nothing crazy. We have all the lineups, so we're good from that standpoint. This will be something that we can just leisurely take care of, and then we should be able to have some questions as well for people, because hey, who knows what we're going to meander with here. So let me get that.
I do love questions from the people, and I think people are starting to realize that we are on this channel, though. Still have 154 waiting in the other one. So I don't know what else I could do besides give them the link and maybe some more exclamation points like, hey, we're in here. Hey, right. You guys, there we go. We're in here. They're having a great chat in there.
They don't want to leave.
Come join, everybody. Come over here. Come. We're in a safe space over here on this YouTube video. But yeah, we got 6 games here to talk about, EMAC. As always, we are presented, of course, by Osmo.com, and use that promo code Live Before Lock if you want to get in there. All the ownership projections, rankings, projections right from Osmo for this baseball, these series of games today. We will have those for you on the site. There's an update probably coming very shortly to those. So get in there, promo code Live Before Lock, get you half off your first month. So we got some guys. We got one guy who's going to be pretty highly owned here, EMAC, who, at least on DraftKings, I don't know. I'm not playing on FanDuel. Dylan Bundy going to be the chalk pitcher of the day. How are we feeling about that? I know the Yankees bats have not been going off too much recently, but that doesn't seem like the best. But what are you feeling about Dylan Bundy today?
Horrible. Adam and I had a good conversation about this morning, and his ownership has gone up. Now, let me see. Okay, so we haven't had an update in a couple hours, so they may push one more here. But the second update moved his popularity up. He's 48% on DK, 23% on FanDuel, and I think it's just strictly a price play at this point. And it looks like it's people that are going to be having some Coors Field hitters, is my best guess. That's creating this. Now, he's someone that I will 20%, and that's taking into account this is a 12 team player pool, 12 starting pitchers, and I don't know what people are thinking. I would much rather go to Jay Happ in this particular situation on the slate tonight. I would rather go to Walker Buehler Now, both of those guys are more expensive, so you're foregoing some of the hitters. But I'm okay foregoing some of the hitters in Coors Field because between John Gray and Walker Buehler, those are two really good pitchers. On DK at least, now I haven't done FanDuel, but on DK at least, they've appropriately priced the majority of the hitters in that game for being in Coors Field. I'm sure they will wink, wink, nod, nod, forget to update pricing when they're coming back on a homestand when it's 85 degrees in the middle of July. But for now, they've done a reasonably good job of accounting for the Coors Field effect. Now, I think at last I saw it was going to be like 68 degrees or so approximately at first pitch. We do want to remember it's not nighttime there in Coors Field. And a lot of the West Coast games have been going off at 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern, which is, 4 or 5 local time. So as we saw with Arizona yesterday with the roof open, it was a nice warm day, heavy offensive action there. The humidor doesn't come into play, and it was in the 80s. So this is just one of those things that we'll want to look at throughout the whole scope of things. But I'm still shocked because I thought he would drop down to 35% as a ceiling. So I still think that's where he's going to come in. But my guess is what we're looking at with our algorithm is trying to get in some of the more expensive hitters. It's just my supposition.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even see anything like Dylan Bundy's always capable of having a big day. He has that strikeout upside. I get it. The Yankees also not making great contact, though not as bad as it may seem overall since the season has started. I just don't get the Vegas total's pretty high. Like, I just don't get why you'd want to go to Dylan Bundy there. Like, I'd rather take a shot at, I think I would rather take a shot at Luke Weaver, like a little cheaper. I'd rather go to some other ways, I think, than Bundy, or pay up a little bit more. I think like Aaron Brooks, not a terrible play, but also a big total against him. It just doesn't make sense to go to Bundy. I'm going to be probably close to the field. I would say almost certainly underneath it, but I don't know. I'm just not there. If you're going against Bundy, though, and that is going to be a good leverage play if he's going to be as highly owned as we're projecting right now, which stacks are you going with for the Yankees?
Oh, let me get that sheet open here. We did just get a projections, not ownership, but a projections updated. Even I know you were waiting for that.
Yeah, I was saying before we came on, I need to know how Pat Valleca and Mark Reynolds are going to do. It's very important to my day. So
yes,
glad they're in there now.
It's crucial. Not to spoil the plot twist, but sounds like you're going with some of the Rockies there.
Yeah, I'm not as not to spoil it completely, but I'm not as into Walker Buehler today. I think John Gray, you can talk me into a little bit, but I think I'm still going to stack that game because the totals are too hard to ignore. And, it's Colorado, and I think you got to have some exposure there. But I'm comfortable, going with some Rockies today. But go on, give me your Yankees thoughts.
All right, let me get that page open. All right. So in looking at it, of course, so we have Dylan Bundy, who was a mess last year, allowed 41 home runs. That was leading the league. I think the next highest guy had like 34 or something in that range amongst qualified pitchers. Over the last 2 seasons, he still had some issues at first because, of course, the Orioles are our own Ship My Money's favorite team. He grew up in the Baltimore area and roots for them. So he follows them very, very closely and knows the ins and outs of what they're doing. And we thought it was potentially a catcher not issue, but with certain catchers, it seemed like Bundy was doing better. I'm blanking, I think it was Caleb Joseph, but he would call a slightly different pitch mix, etc. But then just the wheels have come off. So Bundy is, he's still talented. He does have strikeout ability, but his hard hits are just a major problem. He has good swinging strike stuff at about 12% over the combined to righties and lefties over the last 2 seasons. So that's going across almost 1,500 batters. So that's pretty solid. But yeah, I'm not afraid to go after him. Now, Judge is going to be the first there. Hopefully we get to say all rise when he hits a home run. I think you're going to have to coin flip depending on what site you're playing on and what flexibility you get with Luke Voit and Greg Bird. I personally would lean towards Voit. I don't have any issues with that, but I think you can mix and match, much like you could mix and match today with Toronto, looking at Smoke and your favorite, Rowdy Tellez.
Yes, my bailout boy, my sweet, gigantic bailout boy.
And then you have Gary Sanchez, or as I always like to say, the Sanchez, but he's 4,700 on DraftKings, 92 on Fantasy Draft, 92 on Fantasy Draft, and then 21 on Yahoo. But the thing you want to remember about him, he's basically a first baseman. he's not, I mean, he's so far above all the other catchers, you have to consider him as not being a catcher, because otherwise it just kind of, you say, oh, well, I can't pay that for a catcher. No, you can, and you probably should if you can do that, and then just go with a discounted third outfielder or one of your infielders, a middle infielder, etc. So those would be the guys I'm looking at. I don't need to get cute. It's more or less going to be that core four. And then if you just really want to go with a true four, if you're having issues getting both Bird and Voit in your lineup, depending on what site you're on, throw in Gardner, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, so I don't hate the bottom here. I mean, Dylan Bundy, just over the course of last year, much worse versus lefties. And I think Tauchman and Wade, is it Tauchman or Tauchman? I feel like it's probably Tausch, right? I feel like you know these things, Emac.
I would have thought Tauchman, but I don't know.
So Tauschman, I think, an interesting play to go with the bottom part of the order. There's not a ton of ownership on the Yankees overall because, again, everybody's going to Bundy. So really, you can go either way here. You probably don't need to go to the bottom of the order to get contrarian. But I do think those guys help you save a little money, and you're getting the lefty matchup. And you could wrap it around with Brett Gardner on the other side. So I don't hate that move. But I think overall, with the 1 through 5 here, I mean, the highest owned guy out of the 1 through 5 is Brett Gardner at 19%. And then you have Judge, Voit, and Greg Bird there under 10%, all three of them. That seems pretty appealing to me going against Bundy as a leverage play. So I think the 1 through 5 or combinations therein seems like a reasonable move. Gleiber too, also in the 6 hole, looks pretty good at under 5%. It doesn't make sense. Like, honestly, the ownership right now, we might need an update here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to some of the other alternative sites here and see what they have as well, because it's sometimes early in the season it can be a little tricky, especially on a 6-game slate. Where it's not quite as deep of a player pool. So let's see what
Ricky Geiger thinks it's Tauchman. So that sounds viable too. Sure. Tauchman, Tauchman, Touchman, all the things.
Touchman, oh boy, me too.
Touchman is tell me where you touched you on the doll. Mike Touchman, that's you.
Oh boy, goodness.
Get into the jokes. It's Saturday, Emac. We can do these things.
All right, he is coming in relatively high on the other couple sites I'm looking at. That Bundy, that is. He's a top 2 pitcher across the board. So perhaps we're not reaching quite as much as we think. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm just surprised there isn't a good amount of leverage stacks against him. Like, it doesn't have to be 20%, but I'm surprised we're not at 10% for the Yankees. I think that's sort of like a guy like Bundy, who I think most DFS players know is pretty volatile. I'm just surprised that there isn't more ownership on them. And I think that's certainly a place to attack if the ownership does hold up like this. I would say that. What about Jay Happ and the other side? Do you have any Happ exposure, or how much do you have? Or are you going with any Orioles on the other side too? Very low total for them. So probably not the best spot, but Jay Happ, another guy can blow up too.
I absolutely love Happ. He has changed the way he pitches. Over the last couple seasons, he has been, ever since he finished up his stint there in Toronto, just been a new guy. If I'm trying to remember correctly, it's something to do with, I want to say it's a rising fastball or something like that. I'm not as good at looking into this information as Adam and Lofty and Jake are, but he's definitely someone that has demonstrated a new skill set. And over his last, 1,400 hitters faced, he has a 24.5% combined strikeout rate, which is just phenomenal. The best part is 23 to lefties, which usually lefties are better against lefties, 25 against righties. So that is definitely where I want to go. His soft contact has really improved. It's above league average, low 20%, and then his hard contact is below 30%, just by a tick. But that's also much better than league average. So going against the Orioles here and their actual lineup, what do you think the highest isolated power number is for their lineup tonight over the last 2
I have
seasons?
that in front of me. It's Joey Ricard.
Yeah, so it's Joey Ricard at 144. Yikes! This is just a team. Well, to be fair, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are marginal players at best.
Wait, what is your sample size for Ricard?
For Ricard, I've got 216 at bats over the last 2 seasons.
Huh. Okay. So I think mine is just 20. I think mine is 2018 through this season, and I have him at 227 for isolated power. So I'm not sure.
Let's
Not sure if maybe I'm pulling my numbers wrong or what. But
no, that's okay. Looking at just
maybe he's overall slower, but at least versus lefties, he is that.
Yeah, just last season it's 85 at bats, not counting this year, but he's at 212.
Okay, so that might be okay. That makes sense. Yeah, combining that with this year, that might get us there.
Correct. So what I like to do, and this is relatively sort of me, well, I like to go with the last 2 seasons, particularly at the beginning of each year, just because it gives you a nice baseline. It can wipe out some of the anomalies, etc. Once we get about 3-4 weeks into the season, I'll start using full team data. Because we get enough at-bats that it's kind of normalizing for what a team-wide runs created plus is, their isolated power, strikeout rate, etc. Those generally start to stabilize at around that point. And then when we get, usually towards the All-Star break, then I just kind of am looking at this season's numbers. So generally, I usually try to say when I'll say from the beginning of the 2017 season or something like that. But when I'm going to be referencing numbers for the next couple weeks, it'll be the last 2 seasons combined. Unless I call it out otherwise.
Yeah, no, and Osmo also advocates for taking a bigger sample size than not, but I found that it leaves you with some blind spots sometimes. I think there's probably merits to both. I mean, you certainly want more predictability, but I think with younger players, sometimes it helps to get more recent stuff in there as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Ricard's a perfect example. I mean, it was 212. Yeah, it was 86 at bats, so it's not a lot. But with pitchers, particularly, if they start using a different pitch mix, if they start using a new pitch, or they've revamped something, their numbers can be dramatically skewed if you go too far back. So that's especially, and this is one thing that Adam and Laffy and Jay call out, like when they start throwing more sliders, which is what we want, and less two-seam fastballs, they can just change almost overnight with what they're doing. So,
yeah, that makes sense. You want to go to the next game, or do you have any more thoughts on this one? I'm not crazy about Happ, I guess, overall. I mean, I could see getting there, but the price just wasn't working for me because I do have some of these higher price stacks. So that's just sort of where I fell with it. Probably don't have any Orioles, but I could see being, again, the Orioles also not very owned as a stack. So I think either stack on the side for the Yankees or the Orioles, not a bad approach.
Yep. I'm going to start. I haven't run an evening stack yet, or an evening crunch yet, so I will do that, so I have something to refer to here in just a minute.
So let's just move on to the we got a game with the Astros and the A's in Houston. Aaron Brooks going against Wade Miley. Not much ownership for Aaron Brooks or Wade Miley here. The stacks themselves are going to see some ownership for Houston, but really not as much as you may think. They also are starting the year kind of cold. Nice 5.2 run total today, which is the highest on the slate, but still they are starting cold. Oakland, a little bit less runs expected for them, but actually comparable ownership, at least as a stack. People are stacking against Wade Miley a decent amount. I have more Houston than I do Oakland by a pretty decent margin. I do have a little bit of Wade Miley just because he's down there as a pivot to Bundy. And if you think Bundy blows up and Miley's just passable, which he can be, he can certainly limit the damage, not giving up a ton of home runs generally, and certainly not going to give up a ton of home runs in Houston, especially. I think Miley is an okay play to get. You're not going to get a lot of ceiling. He doesn't strike guys out, but he may not blow up. And if Bundy does blow up and he's highly owned, like we're projecting, I think it's okay to have some Wade Miley. But I would prefer the Houston stack overall. And Aaron Brooks, not looking terrible to me. I think, the total there isn't obviously great, and he doesn't project well in our projections, but his stuff has been okay for the most part, and also limiting damage pretty well, getting some decent swinging strikes, some decent chase rate. So I don't hate Aaron Brooks, and a max 20, I do have some exposure. But what do you have in this game so far, Emac?
So I think that, and this is one of the places we sort of differed, Adam and I did this morning, is I am wanting the Houston Astros going against Aaron Brooks. Now Brooks, this is not a slam dunk. Brooks over the last 4 MLB seasons has I'm just going off memory here, but it's in my article, 4 seasons he has about 66 innings pitched. That's actually spread out over 6 major league seasons, because 2016 and 17 he pitched in the PCL, Pacific Coast League, and did not make it up to the majors. He's okay, but he's more of a, I don't want to say an aging prospect, but he's not a young fireballer coming up here. And I think it's a dangerous lineup here with Houston. The fun thing about Houston is they are the 3rd lowest offense this season thus far, creating or scoring about 2.3 runs per game. Number 3 is the Seattle Mariners. Now, yes, small sample size, but I'm looking to go about 20 4-man stacks on DraftKings against Brooks, and I'm also looking. I just did my first run, and I'm looking to take 20% Yankees against Bundy for my main focus on the 12 teams we are looking at this evening. So I'll have a little bit of Brooks. Generally, that means 5 to 10%. I'm going to need to start tweaking my pitchers here. I ran it uncapped and ended up with 70% Wade Miley. So I don't want to do that.
Okay. But you know what? Your crunches know that he's a great pivot. So that's what matters.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even great. Great might be too strong of an adjective.
Well, he had a sub 3 ERA last year, but he barely gave up any home runs, and I think it was like 100 or so, or 100 or less innings. So it's one of those.
He's trending the right way as a competent but not great fantasy pitcher. Like his xFIP to start the year, obviously very, very small sample size, but 291 to start the year. So still doing everything else. All the numbers pretty much on pace, except he did give up a couple home runs so far this year. But besides that, I just think Miley's okay. And
we have updated
if Bundy,
ownership, by the way.
Oh, here we go.
Walker Buehler number 1 at 40, Bundy at 38. So Bundy only came down 10% on DK. Bundy is number 1 on FanDuel, just 21%. So that's kind of fair. Corbin Burns is the next at 16. Who else? And then you've got Jay Happ at 14 is number 3. So things are going to be diffused out there on FanDuel, which should make for a fun slate. On DK, rounding it out, Burns is 3rd at 24. Kyle Wright, who is an intriguing SP2, is 24, and then Jay Happ is 19. So I'm pretty good with Happ. I think I'm going to set my cap at 25 or 30 and see if I can get there and still keep the stacks that I want.
So would you say that Bundy now at 3.8, or excuse me, at
38?
Yeah, 38. Sorry, yeah. At 38%, would you say that's a little more palatable? Because I think that's closer to where I am. I think I'm at low 30s right now with Bundy, because I want to have, if the field's going to be there, I'm going to have some of it, but 38 still seems a little high.
I think it's high. I'd prefer not to go over 15%.
Okay, that's even more. Yeah, all right, that's fair. I could see that take too. I think I've been trying to follow the chalk more with pitching, because I get a little cute sometimes with pitching. Sometimes it works out. Like Joe Musgrove yesterday was great, and he was a guy I liked a lot. But then at the same time, like Pablo Lopez did not have the day, and Vegas didn't support that. But I kind of like the numbers with his pitches, and he had a really good swinging strike rate so far to start the year, and chase rate. And I try to find those improvements. I don't see it for Bundy. Kyle Wright too, quite frankly. Let's just skip this game. I think a Miami stack today is pretty interesting. I think you could stack them a couple different ways. They are the cheap stack of the day. Kyle Wright to me doesn't look that strong. I mean, he's been getting very lucky, I think, with his BABIP as well, and really bad whip numbers against both sides of the plate. I don't know what the sample is because I don't have that directly on my sheet, but at 24%, he doesn't look like a great prospect to me. But you said you're interested, so give me your thoughts.
Yes, let me filter to him. And a lot of this is
total though. 3.6 runs.
Yeah, a lot of this is has to do, one, with the matchup against Miami, and 2, the price for an SP2, because I can pay a little bit more, and I think just going with the matchup against Miami is going to be key. Now, he is really shoot, this is another guy I don't have up in front of me. I think he's made one appearance. I think he made one appearance last year. I think he's only faced about 30 hitters in his career. So let me call up my fun little fan graphs. It's a beautiful site there. I actually subscribe to it, so I don't have to have the ads popping up constantly, Chris. So if you haven't,
that's nice of you. I just click them out.
I just spring for the $50. They have for the full year. They have been good to me, so I feel like I'm giving back. So let me just run my little report here that I had. So we've got Kyle Wright faced 18 lefties last season, so very small sample size. He did allow 2 home runs within that, and then let's see, did he end up going against any righties? And he faced 30 right-handed hitters, so he's got saw just over 50 hitters in this time frame. Decent ground ball rate going in this small sample size. I'm going to give him a pass on the home runs, but taking a quick look at his minor league numbers. So he ran through in 2001. He was in rookie ball and then high A for the Braves. He pitched. It's not my favorite site to look at. Where's the innings? He had 16 total innings in that, so not a lot because that was the same year he was drafted. He was drafted in June of 2017, number 5 pick overall. So between those two stops, we'll call it a 25% strikeout rate, about a 9% walk rate. Nothing bad or exciting about that. Last year, he split his time between AA and AAA, made 20 starts at AA. 4 at AAA, and then he kept around a 23 to 25% strikeout rate there. He got his walks a little bit better under control. They were trending down just a touch, and then he had, as we mentioned, his 4.5 innings or I guess you can't have a half inning, 4 1/3 innings in the majors. So I'm willing to go with him. If we just look at his overall numbers, his projected curveball is his strongest pitch. It's a 50 on the scale of 55. His slider and fastball check in very similarly. So overall, he has decent command, and he projects to be probably like a number 3 or potentially a fringe number 2 starter if he continues on this trajectory. He's 23.5. If he were a lefty, he'd probably be closer to a number 2 starter, but he's probably going to top out as around a number 3 starter is my guess, and he'll probably have about a 10-year career. So that's all put together going against the woeful Miami Marlins, who don't have much, if any, power. And when you consider their power going against righties is really Curtis Granderson, the ageless wonder, and batting 8th, we have Pete O'Brien. So not very scary. So that's what sort of has me going with Kyle Wright. The one other thing we do want to remember is generally thus far, SunTrust Field has played better for left-handed hitters, but Miami doesn't really have any scary ones. So,
okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Kyle Wright, pretty egregiously bad versus lefties so far. 10.71 xFIP over the last year and change. And again, I need to put the sample sizes in here so I could cite these more authoritatively, but very bad versus lefties, either, I guess, more boom or bust. He has a 12.3 K per 9 rate versus lefties, 11.1% home run rate, 1.91 whip, both obviously very bad. So I just think Kyle Wright is also not a guy to lock in, but the Vegas total does support giving him some run. But I think he's worth also another guy worth having some exposure against him, some hedge stacks we talked about last week. I think, Miami going to be pretty cheap and low owned, and, it's baseball. Variance can happen. And a guy like Kyle Wright seems pretty susceptible to variance on my end. What about the Braves side?
So for the Braves, we went back and forth a little bit. I'm good with Albies, Freeman, and Acuna. Hat tip to Nick Markakis, who more or less had a career night last night. Last I saw, he was like 5 for 5 with 5 runs. Or something crazy like that. But he had, last I checked, he had like 37 DK points. So hat tip to him. Alcantara is another guy that does not have a lot of sample size. He has gone 185 hitters thus far in the bigs. Not enough for me to worry about. He's a pitcher that I think is going to go places and has the potential of being a solid rotation guy for some time to come. I think Miami has some interesting pitchers like Caleb Smith, Richardson. They've got a couple of guys that are kind of interesting there. One issue is they're not in Marlins Park tonight, and that's a huge downgrade going here to SunTrust Field. So I am still okay just going with the main core of the lineup, the 2, 3, 4 hitters for Atlanta, and they are actually my number 4 stack right now. My number 4 4-man stack on DraftKings. They are my number 1 3-man stack.
Yeah, so I like what I've seen from Alcantara. His numbers so far this year. Again, it's the same thing as like Pablo Lopez yesterday, though, but limited sample size, and also they both played their games at Marlins Park to start the year. But he did start the year pretty well. I think showing some signs of improvement. The swinging strike rate so far, 14.1%, chase rate of 44.1. So those are both positives. I think my worries about Alcantara, I think he's a better pitcher overall than Pablo Lopez, even though they both have shown similar improvements. So they did spook me a little bit off Atlanta. I'm not getting there a ton today. Markakis also, I think, interesting. It was 2 days ago that he had the big day, though, right? Because I had him that day.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Sorry, the days all run together when you're doing content the night before. For the next day, the games are still going on, and you just finished the day. I lose.
But yeah,
track of
because
all
yesterday they blew up Pablo Lopez, but I don't think it was Markakis who blew him up. I think it was pretty much everybody else who blew him up.
Yes. And between split slates, it feels like we've already done 14 slates, and we're day 9 into the season.
Got to earn it, EMAC. We earn it every day here.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So to close the loop on these guys, we'll do our home run picks in a second. I could see going to them. I think Alcantara's stuff is a little better where I'm not trying to get there a ton, but I thought that about Pablo Lopez yesterday. And he actually did have some moments, but then they just got to him. And I think that's probably going to be the same thing today for Alcantara. So didn't play a lot of Alcantara, a little bit too overpriced for me. But I didn't play the Braves either. So I could see the logic going there. All right, EMAC, let's set the table. EMAC is the one right now who is 1 for 1 on his home run picks. He's only been on one show, one live before lock show that had a home run pick. And you were 1 for 1 last week with Christian Yelich. I have the most overall 2 for 5 though on a cold streak of 2 in a row, which hurts me. Christian Walker yesterday, the tilts of all tilts. He had guys hitting 3 home runs literally before him and after him. As Rick Porcello got dominated, as I said on the show. I don't like to toughen up my chest too much for these things, but that really hurt me, Christian Walker. So I won't go back there today. But EMAC, who will you go with as Mr. 1 for 1?
Adam Jones is going to be my guy.
Great play yesterday. All right, let me put him on the board.
He was good yesterday. That the fact that he's batting leadoff and 3,600 on DK. He's on right now. I just did one more crunch. He's 40% of my lineup. So he's the guy that's bubbling up for me in this one.
All right, I'm going to go with. I'm putting my money where my mouth is, or my dignity where my mouth is. Going against Kyle Wright with leadoff hitter Curtis Granderson. Old man Granderson taking Kyle Wright deep.
I like that. See, I'm glad we stayed away from Coors Field just to make it.
That was a gentleman's agreement that we didn't even mention.
Yes, it takes the fun out of it. So
I don't mind it sometimes, but I agree. Coors feels tough. Like I don't mind picking good hitters because I feel like good hitters, like if you're picking Stanton every time, we talked about this last week, but if you're picking Stanton every time, like you're being kind of a dick. You pick Stanton sometimes, like no issue with that. No issue with that at all. Spags finishing this and heading right to a European disco. No, I'm just living my life. I'll be watching New Japan at home after this, probably pro wrestling while wearing my man bun like a dignified little boy. All right, let's go to the next game, UMac. We got Boston and Arizona here. Arizona yesterday just took Porcello to the woodshed over and over. Everybody going nuts besides Christian Walker, the godforsaken one, ironically enough, given his name. On Boston side, going against Luke Weaver, new acquisition for Arizona. Boston looks pretty appealing to me, but I do have a little bit of Weaver because why not? What are you doing with this one, EMAC?
Let me see here. I wanted to see temperature. The roof is going to be open, so let me see if the side I like to go to acknowledges that they do. It's 82 degrees at first pitch. Reminder, the games are all going early, so this is the Arizona and is going off at 5 local time, and the Rockies are actually going off at let me do some math here. Would that be 4 local time?
Yeah, that sounds like
3.
a thing.
No, 4, 5. Yeah. Anyway, it's afternoon. My whole point being, it's afternoon for these games. The late games are these two. So it's maybe at 6 o'clock in Colorado and 5 o'clock in Arizona. But the point being, it's not. It's very nice in both places, so keep that in mind. This is not like they're a 7 o'clock local start, which generally means the cooler weather will be coming because the sun will be going down. That said, I have set my maximum at 10 or 15 for most pitchers, so that is the most I will get of either of these guys. I do that because on the 2 pitcher sites, you just kind of need to do a little bit of mixing and matching to make it work. With regards to Boston, I really like Mookie Betts. I think Steve Pearce is intriguing. He's a little more expensive than I would have hoped, but he is batting 3rd. You're going to have to give up your first base spot for him, depending on your side of choice. I think Rafael Devers is the other guy I like to go to. I want to see what he is on FanDuel. He was like 2 something there the other day. He's a little more expensive on DK. Devers is 3 flat, and Pierce is 2.5 on FanDuel. So that would be my preference to look for those guys there. Coming on the other side, David Price. Hey, he's a gamer. His velocity was up in his first start, kind of around where it was for most of last year with all of his pitches. So that was good to see. He will get to go some innings, but I like Adam Jones against him, as mentioned. I think Ketel Marte batting second is nice. Wilmer Flores, that's who I should have gone with my guaranteed home run, but I've decided I'm going to get him as my guaranteed 2 home run play today. So that's
Wilmer Flores with his 0.90 isolated power. That would be a bold take. That would have been a real artful play. I would have never questioned you again.
No, I'm being serious. I'm liking him for 2 home runs tonight. There we go.
Wow. All right. Well, we'll keep that in mind. That one doesn't count, but we'll keep that. If Wilmer Flores goes off, I'll store that in memory banks. Yeah, no Arizona for me. David Price, I could see he's been fine. He still gave up a lot of home runs to start the year, but that's what David Price will do. He can have big days. He can also go up for home runs. So you can even see him have a decent day if he does give up that home run. So I don't have an issue with him. And yeah, I agree with your Red Sox guys. I like the top 5 there, the most appealing to me. I think Steve Pearce also a pretty interesting play overall. Yeah, overall, I think that covers everything. This one, not terribly appealing. If the team totals feel a little low, but you could see anybody go off, and Luke Weaver certainly not anything to worry about too much for the Red Sox. Weaver, let's go to the Dodge. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Weaver has gotten just a little more credit than he probably should have in the DFS community. Because he had some really good starts while he was with the Cardinals, but he has not been able to sustain that. So, of course, your mileage may vary, but this is not particularly a matchup where I would even want to tangle with him. So I am making sure I will not have more than 10% across my 197 lineups that I am running tonight.
I'm with you on that percentage on just 20. I just think he doesn't have great strikeout stuff, really. More than anything, I think that's if he did, I wouldn't mind it. But the Red Sox are the best hitting team on the slate, at least on paper. So don't mind that. And this Dodgers and Colorado game, we talked a little bit about this. Got some question in premium Slack. I wasn't on Colorado, but are they really that low owned? Asks Donger, very appropriate name in the premium Slack. We do have them as being a relatively low owned stack, 10% being the highest guy on Colorado's side right now on DraftKings for Trevor Story. Everybody else coming in underneath that on the side, except for Tony Walters, who also coming in at 10%. People wanting the crappy catcher demographic out there in a nice stadium can get him in their lineups. And the Dodgers, I like stacking the Dodgers a variety of ways, but I definitely have more of the top 6 in anything. Getting Max Muncy in there, maybe skipping a guy is an approach. I did a decent amount today. John Gray, obviously a great pitcher at Coors. So you're still going against the buzzsaw a little bit, but the totals are there for both teams. So I think having some exposure here, you just got to trust Vegas on this. But what are you getting the most of, Mac?
Oh boy. I have 1%. I have 1 3-man stack for Colorado. I'm just running 100 right now. I'll run my full one when we get closer. I have 9 3-man stack, or 9% 3-man stacks of the Dodgers and 5% 4-man stacks. So not a lot. I wasn't really going to this game, but I do have I goosed the Yankees. I got them up 25% where I wanted them. I've got Arizona at 20. Pardon me. I've got Houston at 22% and Arizona at 15% for my 4-man stacks, with Atlanta and Oakland rounding out my top 5.
Okay. Yeah. I think just having some exposure here in a variety of ways is what I would do. And the Colorado side too, I do have a little more there. Walker Buehler has started the year pretty slow. Given up a 2 whip and 6.57 xFIP so far to start the year. He didn't have any strikeouts in his first appearance, which, obviously small sample size, that'll level out a little bit. But if we're talking about a guy who didn't have good stuff in the start, now going into Colorado, maybe he'll wake up the Colorado bats, even though they've also been pretty quiet to start the year. But the total's there. I guess that's really all I could say about it. We got a question here from Legalized in the premium Slack, and I guess let's just distill everything down. Who would you say would be your favorite pitchers on the slate overall? Let's go just top 3 guys you like the most.
That would be Happ, number 1. That would be Kyle Wright is coming in number 2 for me, and then Walker Buehler is at number 3 for the time being. and those are on DraftKings, and that is accounting for the fact that I'm getting the Yankees bats where I want them to be, and not going to, as we just mentioned, that Colorado game. So I'm able to get some of the pitchers that I want. I've got the, let's see, I've got 30% Happ. I've got 40% of Wright, and then Walker Buehler, I've got 35%. So, and I don't have any other pitcher more than 15%.
So for me, I think I do have a little more ownership on Bundy than I would like right now, but I wouldn't put him as my top 3 favorite pitchers, because I think you just have to have some to get him in there. But I would probably go Happ, Burns, and honestly Wade Miley. I think I'm going to put in there, just in terms of having him the most and finding him to be a decent play relative to Dylan Bundy. I think that's where I land with it. So not, that doesn't feel great. I have equal amounts of Miley and Brooks, but I feel a little more comfortable in Miley not just completely getting shelled. So that would be my picks.
I didn't end up with any Brooks, so I'm going to tweak that so I force him into 3 to 5% here. And that's something I'll do just for those of you having fun at home and watching along. If I get a pitcher, like for Brooks, we just don't have a very good projection on him. He's going to be, it looks like 2 to 5% for the field, so I'd like to get there. I'll just set a hard cap. I'll pump it up so his projection up so he'll just hit it, but it won't go throughout all my lineups, just because I need a controlled thing. And since we're live and there's 22 minutes before first pitch, I don't have time to get fancy. So that's the quick and dirty way of getting it. But looking here at Wade Miley, so last season, I want to know why he keeps popping up in our stuff. So last season he squared off against just 330 or so batters. He minuscule power given up, and that's just because he didn't give up hardly any home runs. His hard contact against lefties was an obscene 48%, and that is lefty is usually that should be much better. He had a horrible soft contact rating against them as well. Adam was mentioning something about him changing up his pitch mix somewhat, so we couldn't really go after him. And he's one of those guys that he doesn't get blown up nearly as often as you think, similar to like Andrew Kashner and a few other pitchers. So I'm not going overboard with him. I don't mind him coming into my my lineups. His biggest issue is he gives up too damn many walks. And over the last season, it's double digits, low double digits at 11.2%, and his strikeouts just don't make up for it. So if he gives up an extra base hit and there's already somebody on base, you can really run into some big innings, even if he doesn't give up home runs. So that's my one concern for him. But his price at 6,600 is, let's see, on DraftKings, it's the lowest of all the starters, with the exception of 6,300 Luke Weaver. So if you're not capping him, you're going to end up with him in more lineups than you want, would be my one word of caution.
Yeah, I think those are totally fair takes. He's certainly not a pitcher to excite you, but on a day in which the people are going towards volatility, I think, maybe takes the stability of a guy who kind of sucks, but if he gets blown up, it hopefully won't be that bad. I think that's really all you can look at for the slate. Somebody on the YouTube chat who I want to give credit for, but I lost it. So somebody saying, if this were Tinder, I would swipe left on all the pitching. I think that's a
wait, it's left.
Pretty fair take.
Yeah, left's bad, right? Yeah, left's bad. Okay.
Yeah, left is bad. Emac, it's right. You're not in the world right now of these dating apps, so you're not.
No, I've been married for it'll be 9 years in June. So
okay. Well, early congratulations on almost making a decade.
Yes. So no, but we met on eHarmony, so I used that.
Oh, so you're familiar then. That's close enough to swiping.
Yeah. And when I was out in Seattle, I used Match.com was a popular one at that point in time, and there was one other one, I forget what it was, but I'm familiar with those. But yeah, eHarmony randomly was the one we met on here, and I just joined up as a lark. And it turned out she lived about 2 miles from me. Whereas when I moved out to Virginia, I was seeing people that were like 30 miles away, but it would take an hour and a half, 2 hours in traffic, much like I'm sure it is down there in the Los Angeles area, Chris.
Yes, it is a tough place to navigate for all these things, but a fertile ground. And yeah, eHarmony, I like how they use science. We are data-driven people here at Osmo.com, so it does check out, Emac. You're on brand. If you have any questions, drop it into the YouTube chat or the premium Slack. Obviously, premium Slack getting first preference. I'm bouncing back over there now because I got tagged in something. Also got tagged in a premium golf and a premium hockey update. Oh, here we go. Here's a question, Emac, for Sir Legend 7777. Flores, huh? Well, would you take him, or I presume this is Peralta? He's asking you for DK.
Yeah, I would take him over David Peralta. Peralta's fine in lefty-lefty matchups, and he is batting cleanup tonight. But I do like Wilmer Flores just enough a skosh better that I'd rather go that route.
It's a strong take. All right. Farmers only has to be a money laundering operation. Look, farmers out there need love too, and they're going to have a tough time coming up when we lose daylight savings hours. So they got to find love however they can. We as a state, California doesn't have them, or technically we don't have them anymore. I don't know when it switches over, but we're not supposed to be changing clocks anymore. We're joining like Arizona.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I had
voted
no
in
idea.
Last election.
Oh, I didn't realize that. The only reason I say that is that's a big enough state that's crucial enough that could be a tipping point for more states to go, especially those on the West Coast.
Yeah, eventually we just have to realize it doesn't make sense to keep doing it. I support the farmers as much as possible, but I think we've had enough advancements where we can all just be normal times. That would be nice. All right, got some questions here in the YouTube chat. Emac and Spax could be more opposite on the dating scene. Possibly, who knows? It could be competing for the same women. As long as we're using science, we're using the science of eHarmony and Awesemo.com's new dating rankings.
Wait, is the DD good or is that okay?
Two Ds would be a solid. A D and an E would just be uncomfortable and lopsided.
All right. Apologies to any ladies listening or watching this show. That was
no. Look, hey, the same applies for the gentlemen too. They want two Ds too. If you can get one. Wiley and Sanchez or Bueller and Severino. Which of those pairings would you go with for Bill Biller in the YouTube chat?
What was the second one with?
It was Wiley and Sanchez or Bueller and Severino.
I'm going to go with Bueller, but I think in a tournament, it wouldn't be the worst thing to do on this particular slate to go against Oakland with some teams because they do have strikeouts in that lineup. I still think if I was making just one, I would go with Walker Bueller. And that's the tipping point for me is the pitcher. To me, the batters are. I mean, it's a lesser batter with Bueller, but it's not dramatically so.
It's a pretty big difference in projections from Severino to. I mean, it's literally double for Sanchez what Severino has, and obviously that can go south too. But I think you're getting leverage on Bundy and in multiple ways there with Sanchez and Wiley. So, Miley. He's not Dr. Wiley from Mega Man. No, for Wade Miley, I think I would go with that. I'd go with the Miley and Sanchez pairing. I think you're getting double leverage on the field. The boss man, Chris, we were supposed to keep our plans to enter online dating under wraps. I'm sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to get that away. We've revolutionized so many fields of data analysis. This is the last one we have yet to conquer.
I forget that Alex watches, or at least is listening to a lot of our shows while he's doing his last minute lineup stuff.
That's why you just have to be congruent at all times. I'll go on tangents that'll be close to the line many times, but I'll do it at any day. Well, not just Saturdays.
Yeah, that was my first one in like a couple weeks there, boss. So come on. I get a gimme now and then, right?
For baseball, we have more time. I feel like it's like the same thing as like the announcing for the games. You just have a little more time to kind of luxuriate and talk about random things in between all the stuff we're working through. I got a question in premium Slack right now, which I'm pulling up. Oh, here we go. Greek Yank, our guy asked, can you play Kyle Wright in cash on FanDuel? What would you think about that, Emac?
I think you can. I don't think it's a bad thing. Adam focused on 3 pitchers today in the deep dive article, and that was one of them. And generally, the people that he has in the deep dive article are the best at their positions or situations, unless he calls out otherwise and says, hey, this is specifically for a tournament, or here's why I wouldn't play this guy. But when he didn't have any of those caveats on his pitchers, so I use that kind of as my baseline cash player pool validation source. So I think it's fine.
I feel like he's a little under-owned for cash, 11%. And, I do think he has some blowout risk. So I might be inclined to go to someone else. I mean, Bundy, maybe a little risk there, but Burns, I think a little bit less risky. Maybe Jay Happ, I would say probably the least risky of the group. So I might be inclined to pay up a little more than take the discount on Wright. But I think your logic's fine, Emac. And I think, obviously if Adam is saying it's good shit, my money always is as strong as anybody out there with his selections. So I can't argue it. But 11% on FanDuel feels a little low owned for a cash game pitcher to me, I would think. Let's see. Got another question here. All right. Oh, there we go. Greek Ink just saying good shit. Thank you, Greek Ink. You're good shit too, friend. Let's see what else we got here on the YouTube chat. What is on top of Chris's head? That is a luxurious man bun. J300 Spring 2015. Somebody with a college class name on YouTube. Is it okay to play one batter versus your pitcher in DFS? What do you think about that, Emac?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. Seth Hader, I hope you are listening. Yes, it is completely fine. Is your pitcher going to have a no-hitter tonight? Okay, probably
Unlikely.
not. If you're playing someone against him who's either A, the best player on that team going against him, or is a discounted person at a weak position where you need to fill out your lineup, it is totally fine. On 4-game slates, I don't mind playing 2 or 3 hitters against my pitchers, and this is on 2 pitcher sites. On 1 pitcher sites, I prefer not to go more than 1 against my pitcher, but on these short slates, you've got to get a little bit creative on the 2 pitcher sites, and it is okay, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think the slate is big enough where you don't have to, and I wouldn't want to do it in a bunch of lineups, but sometimes the guy's price works and it's fine. And, a guy can, like Emac said, the guy can give up a hit, guy can give up a home run, himself a perfectly fine day. Or, the bullpen, that actually was happening with Rowdy Tellez, where I had one lineup in which I had whatever pitcher was going against him, and he hit a home run in the 9th because the bullpen sucked. And I think if you're just going against the team. It could break a variety of ways. So it's not a strategy to look for, but if you're trying to differentiate, that is one way to do it. And, not a ton of downside for the most part.
All right. Now I'm making sure that I get Wilmer Flores in some lineups since he is going to get 2 home runs tonight.
He's going to get 2 home runs. We all need him today. Yeah, everybody, 100% Wilmer Flores. If you're watching the stream, that's a professional advice. I never know how to pronounce your name. Kanoa's dad. You're always in the chat, so I don't want to attribute you, but saying tell Josh it's Max Muncy Day. Max Muncy, of course, the best heavyset baseball player in all the league that Josh seemingly just hates for no reason, but it is a good Max Muncy spot. I will agree with that. Lefties versus John Gray, not a bad place to be, at least relative to John Gray. Thoughts on Wright as an SP2? I feel like we've talked a lot about Kyle Wright today. I think he's fine, but I have more Miami than I do Kyle Wright because I think he's not that great. But Emac, you want to give your Kyle Wright take one more time?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with him as an SP2, and as somebody mentioned, if you want to play him in cash on FanDuel, that's fine. I have found for cash games, I'm not as big of a fan of the 50-50s. You generally either cash in all of them or you lose in all of them. I prefer head-to-heads, and I actually really like 3-mans leagues, but I play baseball with a little bit more tolerance towards the variance, and I like to think that I can make up for it with putting enough hitters in my lineup that are in good situations that I can outscore my opponent or my 2 opponents. So that's where I don't mind having someone like Kyle Wright. I used to subscribe to the theory that you want the best pitcher in there, but things have changed over the last 7-8 years in DFS, and with pitchers, it's still early in the season and people getting pulled at 80 or 90 pitches or just going 5 1/3, 6 1/3 innings. To me, I'd rather just spend on the hitters.
All right. Also, it is Kai Noah. So thank you, Kai Noah. Kai Noah's dad and Kai Noah, the child. I appreciate both of you. Now I know how to pronounce it. See, Brooks versus struggling Strohs is a top GPP play. I think Brooks is interesting at very low ownership. I will agree with that, but I have some exposure both ways on that one. Pinder, Marte, or Perez for cash? Which of the 3 would you go with? So Donald Leaper will stop pasting it into the YouTube chat.
Who was the first one? Pinder?
Pinder, Marte, or Perez?
Marte. Pinder's a pinch hit risk, so you want to be careful with him because he'll get lifted when the opposite-handed pitcher comes in.
Let's see. Kyle Wright or Bueller? 2 very different price points, but which would you go with?
If you're choosing between the 2, I think I would go with Bueller. Just because we don't quite have the track record of Wright, and yes, it is a tough matchup going against an impressive Dodgers lineup. in one of the best hitting parks, if not the best hitting park in the world. But I would still go with Walker Buehler because he is the most talented pitcher on the slate. And if you've got it down to those two, I'd probably try to make Buehler work.
Yeah, I guess I agree. I mean, I really don't like Kyle Wright, but I think he might be a little safer than Buehler and for cheaper. I mean, not safe, but like you don't want to get caught paying a lot for Buehler and end up with nothing to show for it. Whereas Kyle Wright, if he gave you just a little bit, maybe it's not as bad. But I think you're probably right. The talent there should win you out. And the tough start for Buehler really scares me though. Like I don't want a guy that's something with the Red Sox in particular. They've been starting really bad. And if you target the Red Sox pitchers lately, like even though it's a small sample size, they've been so egregiously bad where it's like they might need to fix some stuff for Sale and for Porcello. I think Buehler, at least from a limited sample size, kind of gives me some of the same vibes, but I don't know. How about Milwaukee? I feel like we kind of breezed over this game, but
yeah, we
Cole
did.
Hamels also starting pretty poorly to start the year, and they are in Miller Park.
Let me call that up. So I like. I'm definitely going to side with the Brew Crew here, particularly Aguiar, Braun, and Kane. Shaw is just fine against lefties, and of course Christian Yelich can hit anybody. So we like that. Hamels, another player, not fun to take. Doesn't usually get completely destroyed. Unless it's someone like Billy Hamilton going against him. But yeah, I would go with the Brew Crew here. On the other side, we're looking at Burns. Descalso is kind of interesting leading off. Let's see what his pricing is. He is 2,300 on FanDuel, 39 on DK, 74 on Fantasy Draft, and 9 on Yahoo. So I like that spot for him. He actually was batting in the bottom third of the order, and he had a good game. I forget which day it is, Chris, because the days are all... I'm living each day 2 or 3 times, it feels like. But I like them. Of course, you can go to Hobby Baez, Rizzo, etc. But I would lean number 1, Brewers. Number 2 in this game, I would consider Burns. And then number 3, if you're not a fan of Burns, I don't mind going against him with some of these Cubs. I don't know that I have a full Cub stack, though.
So GAB in the YouTube chat saying, if you don't put a Brewer stack every slate, you're just doing it wrong. I actually am starting to agree with that. So I've made this point on a couple streams, and like it stuck out to me when I did the preview stuff for the NL Central that their pitching is noticeably worse than before. And like I don't mind Burns today, but really he's not that good of a pitcher either. Like he's still giving up some walks and hits, not a ton of strikeout upside, at least versus lefties in particular. Really bad versus lefties in terms of strikeout upside. I think their pitching staff is bad.
Are we saying if we don't stack the Brewers, we're doing it wrong, or if we don't stack against the Brewers, we're doing it?
Stack the Brewers every slate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But the thing though to me is that I think there's going to be runs on both sides for a lot of their games, especially at Miller Park. So like we saw it yesterday with the Cubs and Brewers, where they just started both putting up a ton of runs. I think it was like 20 runs total in that game, maybe more. I think there's going to be a lot of offensive days for the Brewers today, and also the other team kind of getting going in concert. And baseball doesn't work quite the same way as in basketball, where you have the pace and everything kind of trickles up if one team is scoring a lot. But I do think there are going to be a lot of runs needed for the other side because the Brewers have a ton of power, a ton of great hitters, but the pitching isn't there for them. And they're going against a lot of teams who are going to be able to take advantage of their pitching. So in general, I don't mind Brewers stack any day. And I actually would agree with that take right now, especially at home. On the road, maybe a little bit less inclined for them. Let's see. Texas and Milwaukee stacked. Yesterday? Yes, that would have been okay. Thoughts on Hamels? I think we gave those, but no Hamels for me.
No Hamels today.
Anything the premium side? Oh, here we go. Muncy or Bregman is a one-off on DK. Which would you go with, Emac?
Bregman. I just think he's a better all-around hitter.
Yeah, and higher in the order too. And yeah, I think I would go Bregman as well. But that's a close one. And Muncy certainly has that upside. He can easily have a multi-homer day in Colorado if John Gray doesn't have his stuff where it needs to be. Bogarts, people just naming their stacks. What are your Dong picks? Our Dong picks for the day, mine was Curtis Granderson, because I am not the Kyle Wright believer of the group. And Emac, yours one more time for the people.
Adam Jones, unless you want someone with 2 home runs, then take his teammate, Wilmer Flores.
Yeah, Wilmer Flores. He might get you 0. He might get you 2 home runs. He'll probably settle somewhere in between. Boom. A's pitcher good. All right. No good. Oh, is Bellinger unfadable? I'm not playing Bellinger today. At least not a lot of volume. I have some, but not a lot. What do you think about that, Emac?
God, I don't like what my stacks are doing, but we're too late for me to change. Let me see here. Do not have much Bellinger, but for some reason Alex Verdugo is appearing in my lineups, which is not making me happy.
Well, you want to have Alex Verdugo. When you have so many great lefties, you want to make sure you get some Alex Verdugo exposure in there.
Yeah, great. Well,
he's hitting well to start the year, actually. He's hitting some home runs, getting on base.
Let's put these lineups in because it's too late to fix them now. So.
Yeah, I have. You know what? Actually, I might have a little more Bellinger than I realized. I think I'm definitely above the field now that I'm looking at. I'm at 20%. The field's at 11. So I don't think he's like. You don't need a bunch of him though. Like John Gray can easily have an okay day.
So
yeah,
that's what happens when you're going for your Yankee stacks. So.
True. Voit or Travis Shaw on DK? Which of those two would you go with?
Voit. I like the way you're thinking, but Voit would be the one. Just prefer him against the potential home run implosions for Dylan Bundy. But Travis Shaw is someone I like going to a fair amount. So I think you're on the right track, as they say.
I think I have a little bit more Voit, but I have both of those guys today, a decent amount. So I would lean Voit, but for the reasons Emac mentioned, where it's just leverage on a chalky pitcher who could blow up. Will Yankee stack be too low owned to pass up? We've talked about it a bunch, but it's really good leverage on high Dylan Bundy ownership. What are your thoughts one more time on the Yankee stack, Emac?
They're my number one stack. I have 24% of them in my 4-man stacks, and that is coming at the cost of Houston. So I'm now just pulled 20 lineups, and I'm going to make those be Houston stacks because I don't want to miss out on Houston. But number one for me right now is the Yankees. I did not think that was where I would be, but that's where I am.
Luke Voit wouldn't have been a bad home run pick either versus Bundy.
No, I think he was solid. He was one of the guys on my short list.
Yeah, one of these guys is going to take Bundy yard, and we talked about that too. That doesn't mean he's going to have a bad day, but somebody's hitting a home run off Bundy. There was no way that there isn't a home run in this Yankee lineup versus Bundy.
So one of my number one pitcher pairing now is Kyle Wright and Dylan Bundy of this crunch that I just did.
Can't wait for you to get that -10 from.
Well, but that's okay because I've got Wilmer Flores and Adam Jones on this particular lineup, so I have God as my co-pilot. So
that 5% Wilmer Flores will cover up a lot of hurt. One can only hope for you.
All right, lineups are uploaded. All right, what else do we got here?
Let's see. Almora Jr. punt for the win. I don't have any Almora Jr. I really don't have much Cubs today, to be honest. But you don't either, right, Emac?
They were the ones that were kind of popping up there at the end, which made me a little concerned. So I must have misbalanced something to end up with more Cubs than Houston, because I had everything where I wanted when I did that first crunch, and sadly.
Yeah, the Cubs not super highly owned. Almora, though, going to be under 1% apparently. He's not that cheap. If we're talking on DraftKings, 3,700 isn't like that punt cheap. If you were like 3,200, I could see taking a shot, but yeah, I don't see it for Almora. Not really a big Almora guy in general.
Let's see. I ended up with 40% Brett Gardner. That was an awful lot.
A lot of Brett Gardner.
That is. George Alfaro at 31%. We're 30 seconds out from lock, so I'm assuming this is okay. Your boy Curtis Granderson on 30% of my teams.
Ooh, there we go. So we'll both be happy if my home run pick pays off.
Yep, Luke Voit on 23, Adam Jones on 20. Randomly, I've got I have some one-offs going against Kyle Wright here with Alfaro. I'm not really going to count Alfaro. So I needed a cheap catcher, and he's batting fifth. So.
That's fair. I got some Miami stacks. I think I got four of their stacks in there because Kyle Wright jumps out as a guy who could get blown up. But that total, though, really no support from Vegas for Miami today.
Do you ever set limits on your hitters?
So I
Individual hitter.
use, so I'm weird. I use optimizers to give me my basis of what I do, and then I hand build
Okay.
for every sport. But because I don't play enough volume, like I'm not playing 150, I play 20s. And it sucks for when we're doing these shows, which I'm doing like 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it is. But I just find I have a little more control that way, which I'm not comfortable enough with what the optimizers give me in every sport, really. So I use them to kind of get like where the inefficiencies are and all that. But yeah, so I'm not the expert for it. I probably need to do it with these shows at some point, though. All you crunchy boys always doing well.
Yeah, and I'm changing it. So for basketball, it was a lot harder on these shows for me because of the way I built it. I didn't do just one big giant player pool. For baseball, I'm working on it, so I just really am pushing the crunch essentially one time. I'm going with 4-3 stacks as my baseline. And then if I want to do anything special, I set aside 20 or 30 lineups that say, okay, well, here I'm going to, make it, give me 4-man stacks from just these 3 teams and force them in and stuff like that if I don't get it where I need it to be. But when I'm not on air, I have a little bit more time and luxury to go around with the nuances.
Well, one last question here. I guess, well, we got two last questions and we'll go. Somebody asking Josh Reddick at 2,400 on FanDuel. He's not in the starting lineup. So is he?
I think he is. Isn't he at the bottom of the Houston line? I haven't looked, but
isn't it Marisnik at the bottom of the lineup? Oh no, you know what? My bad. He's at 7. Okay, I missed him. Yeah, that cheap. I mean, he's 4,100 on DraftKings, and actually, I think I do have Josh Reddick exposure now. Now that I'm looking at it. So yeah, I don't mind that as a punt. That's perfectly fine. Nice team total, and he's in the 7 hole. So
yeah, it's not bad. He has a decent lefty righty power, and by decent I mean he'll hit between 15 and 20 home runs this season if he's getting 500 at bats. So that's not horrible.
Yeah, he's passable. All right, and last question of the day. Here's an important one from BLO0065. Do you go crab rangoon or scallion pancakes for an appetizer tonight? What's your choice, Mac?
Oh, I can't do either. I can't do shellfish.
Oh, really? Allergy or just not?
No, allergy, which is very bad because I used to love shrimp and clam chowder and clams on the half shell and shucking oysters and all of that, but I am very allergic to it now. So
jeez. What happens? Is your throat close up and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's almost at the point where I would need an EpiPen.
Ooh.
It's not that bad. If I had, the last time I did it, I had I was at a friend's house and I had a couple beers and they just made this amazing shrimp cocktail and I got tired of looking at it. So I had literally 3 shrimp and my face swelled up and my eyes swelled up. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Jeez. Wow.
So that was 5 years ago.
Send him some shrimp cocktail.
Yeah, 5 years ago. I haven't done it since. I'm just like, you know what? That's so not worth
it. All right. So no shellfish for Mac, but I would go crab rangoon. I think that's a delicious one. So that would be my choice. Scallion pancakes also good, but not one I frequently go. And crab rangoon, you just pick at it. Pancakes.
Have you heard of Bonefish before?
Bonefish sounds Grill? Familiar, but I don't know offhand.
It's kind of like a chain restaurant. It's like a seafood version of something a little bit nicer than Outback. Okay. I can't remember who they partner. They kind of are usually next to one of the other restaurants kind of like that. Similarly, I think they probably have the same holding company. They had this thing called Bang Bang Shrimp that was so good. That was one of my favorite things to get when I went there. Yeah. It was a little
Bang
appetizer.
Bang Shrimp, popular at a bunch of places. I think P.F. Chang's does that too, and people like it. I don't know what Bang Bang is. I don't know what that. It's like a curry sauce.
It was like a sweet and sour sauce or a sweet sauce with a little bit of a chili kick to it.
I like that. I like the sweet and savory always. But all right, we made our picks. We did all the stuff we did for baseball. We got everything. Use that promo code live before lock. Of course, as always, get 50% off your first month at awesemo.com. We do have night slate content for all the sports. Going to have still NBA content going on as well. Get an all sport package. You get MLB and NBA and NASCAR. Jake Hari's still doing NHL stuff. Everybody there working hard on every sport. So check it out with promo code live before locks. Get half off your first month. Emac, what's your schedule again for tomorrow?
All right, tomorrow you're going to get me and Jake doing the morning show. We had a little time conflict, so we have to go a little bit earlier than normal. We will go at probably 11 or 11:15, so we're going to try to get off air around 12:15 or 12:20. So we'll have time to go through all of the main slate. That won't be an issue. And then I've got office hours tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So definitely, if you're in the premium Slack, we'll have some fun with that. I'm sure we'll have some bankroll management questions. We have some time to go over what we're going to do with Fantasy Cruncher, how we use it, etc. You can ask me some Excel questions since there won't be anything pressing with regards to where the games are. So I'll be in there for an hour. And then we also have Fast Steady Fear because there's very, very, very robust NBA tomorrow. I think there's 12 games, one at noon, but there's 6 games, I think, at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock. I forget which, but it should be a big one.
All right. So yeah, check all that content out. I'll be back on Monday doing NBA stuff and the same shows as always next week. So thank you guys for watching. Check out all EMAC stuff tomorrow. Check out all of our content at awesemo.com, and we will see you again soon. So good luck.